Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. It was more than just a fortress. It was a stage for power, betrayal, and bloodshed. It was a royal palace, a prison for queens, and the site of brutal executions. But what really lies behind the cold stone walls of the Tower of London? This chilling monument has witnessed the rise and fall of dynasties, the cries of the condemned, and the silent footsteps of the forgotten. As the camera sweeps over its ancient battlements and gloomy dungeons, we'll journey through nearly 1,000 years of history. From its founding by William the Conqueror to the imprisonment of Anne Boleyn, the mystery of the princes in the tower, and its role as a symbol of British resilience. Stay with us as we unlock the secrets of one of the world's most iconic fortresses and uncover the darker side of royal history. The origins of the Tower of London begin with conquest. In 1078, just over a decade after his victory at the Battle of Hastings, William the Conqueror ordered the construction of a massive stone fortress at the heart of his new capital. This wasn't just a defensive measure. It was a bold statement of power. The Normans had come to rule, and the White Tower, as it would come to be known, was their unignorable mark on the landscape. Rising from the banks of the Thames, the White Tower served multiple purposes. Strategically located, it helped secure London from invasion or rebellion. But more than that, it was designed to intimidate, a looming symbol of Norman dominance meant to subdue the Anglo-Saxon population through sheer presence. Built with stone, imported from Normandy and constructed by forced Anglo-Saxon labor, the White Tower was an engineering feat for its time. It stood out not only for its scale, but for what it represented, the beginning of a centralized foreign rule in England. What William built wasn't just a fortress. It was a message carved in stone, one that still echoes through history. As centuries passed, the Tower of London transformed from a stark Norman stronghold into a sprawling medieval fortress and royal residence. Under monarchs like Richard the Lionheart and especially Henry III, the tower underwent significant expansion. New curtain. Walls, towers, and a moat were added to strengthen its defenses, turning it into one of the most formidable fortresses in Europe. But it wasn't all grimstone and battlements. Inside the tower complex, monarchs built opulent royal apartments complete with fireplaces, painted chambers, and chapels. Kings and queens used the tower not only as a military base but as a palace, especially during times of unrest when London grew dangerous. Within its walls, the elite lived with a surprising degree of luxury, feasting, entertaining, and conducting courtly life amid the looming threat of rebellion. The tower's role was particularly critical during periods of conflict. Whether facing baronial uprisings, civil wars, or peasant revolts, English monarchs frequently turned to the tower as a secure seat of power. It was more than a residence. It was a symbol of royal authority, visible, fortified, and impossible to ignore. Over time, the Tower of London became infamous not just as a fortress or royal residence, but as a state prison, a place where political enemies, traitors, and high-profile figures were confined under the shadow of royal authority. Its thick walls and strategic position made it ideal for holding those deemed dangerous to the crown. Among its most famous prisoners was Anne Boleyn, the second wife of Henry VIII, who was arrested and imprisoned in the Tower before her trial and execution in 1536. Her ghost is still said to haunt the grounds. Another tragic figure was Sir Thomas More, the former Lord Chancellor who opposed Henry VIII's break from the Catholic Church. More was held in the Tower before being executed for treason in 1535. Guy Fawkes, the explosives expert behind the failed gunpowder plot of 1605, was also imprisoned and tortured in the Tower. He endured brutal interrogation and possibly torture on the rack before being executed for his attempt to destroy Parliament. Even Elizabeth the Farrand herself was once a prisoner here, held by her sister Mary the Farrar under suspicion of conspiracy. Though she would later rule from the throne, her time in the Tower left a lasting impression. The Tower's most notorious entrance, the Traitors' Gate, became a symbol of doom. Prisoners arriving by boat would pass under its arch knowing it might be their last glimpse of freedom. Torture methods, though not as common as legend suggests, included the rack and the scavenger's daughter, devices meant to extract confessions or break spirits. By the 16th century, the Tower's reputation as a place of fear and foreboding was firmly cemented in the public imagination. It wasn't just a prison, it was a warning. The Tower of London is perhaps most chillingly remembered for its long history of executions, some public spectacles, others private tragedies behind high stone walls. While many were conducted on nearby Tower Hill before large crowds, a select few, particularly nobles and royalty, met their fate inside the tower itself, on a quiet patch of grass known as Tower Green. One of the most poignant examples is the execution of Anne Boleyn. After falling out of favor with Henry VIII, she was arrested, charged with adultery and treason, and brought to the Tower. Despite questionable evidence, she was found guilty and beheaded in 1536. Unusually, Henry arranged for a French swordsman to carry out the sentence, perhaps out of a lingering affection or a desire for a quicker, cleaner death. Lady Jane Grey, the 9 Days' Queen, was another royal figure whose life ended within the Tower's walls. Proclaimed queen after Edward VI's death, her reign was short-lived when Mary I seized the throne. Just 16 years old, Lady Jane was imprisoned and eventually executed on Tower Green in 1554, her only real crime being born into the wrong political faction. Perhaps the darkest mystery tied to the Tower is the fate of the princes in the Tower. Edward V and his younger brother Richard, Duke of York, were placed in the Tower by their uncle, Richard, Duke of Gloucester, supposedly for protection. They vanished in 1483, and many believe they were murdered, possibly on Richard's orders, who went on to become Richard III. Their disappearance remains one of the great unsolved historical enigmas, while Tower Hill was the stage for dozens of public executions, serving as both punishment and propaganda. Tower Green was reserved for high-status individuals. Its seclusion provided a more dignified end, shielded from the jeering public. Together, these stories paint a grisly picture of the Tower not just as a prison, but as a place where power, betrayal, and death often met. Often described as the most haunted location in the UK, the Tower of London is steeped in centuries of dark tales, sorrowful spirits, and chilling sightings. As a place of imprisonment, torture, and execution, it's no surprise that legends and ghost stories cling to its ancient walls like the morning fog over the Thames. One of the most famous ghostly figures is Anne Boleyn, executed within the Tower. In 1536, she is said to roam the grounds, sometimes headless, especially around the site of her execution at Tower Green. Witnesses have reported seeing her ghost in the Chapel Royal of St. Peter ad Vincula, where she is buried. Some have even claimed to see her walking through the corridors with her head tucked under her arm, a chilling reminder of her unjust end. Another enduring mystery is the fate of the princes in the Tower, Edward V and his younger brother Richard, Duke of York. Their disappearance in 1483 has spawned numerous ghost stories. Guards have spoken of hearing the sounds of children giggling and playing, only to find no one there. Others report seeing two pale boys in white nightgowns, clutching each other in fear before fading into the stone. Subscribe for more untold stories from the past. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Then there is the White Lady, a less famous but often mentioned spirit. Said to haunt the White Tower, she is sometimes seen standing at a window, waving to children outside, or vanishing into the ancient stone walls. The scent of her perfume is said to linger in the air before she appears, a ghostly presence tied more to emotion than to any specific historical figure. Beyond individual specters, the Tower has a long history of unexplained events. Cold spots, disembodied screams, and sudden drops in temperature are frequently reported by both staff and visitors. One tale tells of a guard who fainted after seeing a ghostly bear charging at him near the Martin Tower. The bear vanished, but the terror remained. These supernatural tales, passed down through generations, blend folklore and history, reminding us that the Tower is not just a monument to power and punishment, it's a place where the past refuses to rest. The Tower of London isn't just a fortress and prison, it's also the secure home of the British monarchy's most priceless symbols, the crown jewels. These sacred objects, used in coronation ceremonies and other royal events, represent centuries of tradition, power, and monarchy. Among them are the imperial state crown, the sovereign's scepter with cross, which contains the 530-carat cullinan, diamond, and the glittering coronation spoon, one of the oldest pieces still in use. Since the 17th century, the crown jewels have been stored and displayed in the Tower, though the current jewel house was established in 1967 to protect and showcase them. Visitors from around the world come to marvel at these priceless treasures, each steeped in history and still used by the royal family today. Protecting the tower and its treasures are the yeoman warders, famously known as the beefeaters. Originally tasked with guarding prisoners and the crown jewels, today they also serve as ceremonial guides and living symbols of royal authority. Dressed in their iconic Tudor uniforms, beefeaters are all retired military personnel with at least 22 years of service. One of the most enduring traditions associated with the tower is the ceremony of the keys. Every night for over 700 years. Without fail, the main gates of the tower are locked in a solemn ritual. At precisely 9:53 p.m., the chief yeoman warder, holding a lantern and the Queen's, now King's, keys, performs the ceremony with precision and reverence. Though largely symbolic today, this ritual underscores the tower's deep roots in British heritage and its continued role in royal tradition. In the 20th century, the Tower of London saw its ancient stones bear witness to modern warfare. During both World War I and World War II, it returned briefly to its grim past as a place of execution. 11 German spies were executed by firing squad within its walls during World War I, and the last known execution at the tower was of Joseph Jacobs, a Nazi agent, in 1941. These events were a stark reminder of the tower's enduring role in state security. After the wars, the tower underwent significant restoration. Efforts were made to preserve its medieval structures and open more areas to the public, transforming it from a symbol of fear into one of national heritage. The tower evolved into one of Britain's most iconic tourist attractions, drawing people not only for its rich and sometimes dark history, but also for its ceremonial traditions and stunning architecture. Today, the Tower of London is recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It welcomes over 3 million visitors each year, all eager to explore its storied halls, see the crown jewels, and walk in the footsteps of queens, traitors, and ghosts. A place where history was made and often ended, the tower now stands as a living museum, guarding centuries of British legacy. From its beginnings as a Norman fortress to its later roles as royal residence, infamous prison, execution ground, and finally a world-renowned museum, the Tower of London has undergone a remarkable transformation. It stands not merely as a collection of stone walls and towers, but as a living archive of England's most pivotal and turbulent episodes. Throughout the centuries, it has been a potent symbol of power, first to intimidate and control, later to punish and make political statements. The stories held within its gates, from imprisoned queens and scheming nobles to executed traitors and ghostly legends, offer an intimate view into the forces that shaped the British monarchy and the nation itself. Today, the tower remains a cornerstone of British identity. Preserved as a place of learning and remembrance, it connects the present to 1,000 years of history. The final thought to leave viewers with: the Tower of London isn't just a monument, it's a time capsule of England's most dramatic moments. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the Tower of London, don't forget to like, comment your favorite tower story, and subscribe for more fascinating history content. Check out these related videos next: Secrets of the British Monarchy, the bloody history of the English Civil War. See you in the next video.